One. All right, everybody, we are here at Worlds with our boy Toby, Fruju Tropical Snow on the website. He is representing Byakko in top 16 of Worlds.
Big cat.
How was your tournament?
It was really good. Had a great time. Ended top 16, which is better than the goal. The goal was day 2. And yeah, the big cat does a lot of really good things on the format, and he's a ton of fun. So that's why I chose to play him. It's really simple, the deck list. Everything's mostly 4 and whatnot. Your whole defensive package is 4 referee juries. Your opponents don't want you to block, you don't want to block. Just take less damage, it's that simple. You get to loop them with Byakko, it's really fun. On attacks, I got talked into playing Titan Cliff. You'll see in the foundations more, but getting that extra foundation and guaranteeing the 4 in play with Ultra Regen allows you to just get more damage, and also you stack with Byakko, draw it off Titan Cliff, go ham. For attack Titan's Haymaker, card's hard to block, says stun 2, and even if your opponent blocks it as a poke, you get to flip it into a foundation. 5-handers want more foundations, and that foundation says mill 1, add damage. You love killing your opponents. The card that really changed Byakko of the year was Cancer Creation Strike. Again, just being able to remove any foundation, and you'll see some really bad ones that we end up building sometimes, and turning them into really good ones is really good. Randomly, it sometimes kills your opponent by getting a bunch more damage from that 1 momentum you take throughout the entire game. Mostly, though, you're trying to remove a 2 and build in a Thunderous Roar.
Yeah, the equity of like having a 5-hander mitigate their 5-hander problems by playing like a suite of attacks that either build while attacking or sculpt whatever you want in your stage is just like super duper good.
Speaking of attacks that effectively draw cards, Beast Summoning. This is probably the most contentious thing that Byakko's either do or don't want to play. You have 38 health, you might as well do it. The fact that you get to ready all sorts of silly things like Thunderous Roar, or even just your 5-disc like Massive Size, you catch your opponent lacking, you play a Beast Summoning, and if they're at 30 health, they're dead, right?
Yeah.
Between this and a Massive Size, they just take 30. So yeah, Card's Mantle, I love it. It's in retro because it's my favorite card in the deck.
Beast Summoning is also like a very good wall breaker because a lot of what people do against decks that just pump like the damage half of stats is, oh, I'll just perfect block everything.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, if I have a single T-Roar, you can't do that.
Yeah, Evading Copy is also pretty rare outside of Ymir at the moment. And so even once you've Thunderous Roared, it kind of like...
Yeah.
I think you get through eventually, right?
Yeah, I think the combo Deku decks also sideboard Evading Copy for like the Mirror and for Elder, but like the problem that you're gonna have with the combo Deku deck is them flashing the first Beast Summoning anyway, so we'll worry about that later.
Next up is the Unblockable, allegedly. Again, flip is a cost to block this. It doesn't matter how fast it is. Sometimes you do end up giving it speed because your opponent built way too wide. This realistically can go to 4. I'm playing a version that I like to call Turbo Cat, where we're just trying to kill our opponent on turn 3. So you're going to see that we get there a lot quicker than most other cats. But yeah, this attack just ends games. Again, you just throw it for 15 a lot of the time, and your opponent can't do anything about it. Next up, I got 2 Berserker Bites. I was looking for a throw that I wanted to put in my deck, and we were playing Overhead Reversal, the Deku one, for a while because it was a low and it doesn't get showdowned and you don't feel bad. But Berserker Bite, if you're going to block one thing, you want to block with this and make their turn harder, especially for all of the turn 2 aggro decks, turn 3 decks that are just trying to ruin your day. And then secondarily, randomly on offense, when you flip a foundation and make all your shit more difficult, this doesn't count towards progressive. And then to add to it, like you can give 6 damage to things, which randomly comes up.
Yeah.
It's also just being a throw to pick up is really good because
for sure, like
finish games.
Well, yeah, wall breaking, just like getting through with any amount of damage in him, super duper important. And on top of that, like Pony is quote unquote the best deck in the format, and making them roll on 5s instead of 4s is important.
So much better.
Yeah, very important.
Electro Moths, card's mental, fills your bin, gets rid of those Tutor and Kurishimas you draw and you don't want because the card's awful, and then also it stacks, once you stack with Byakko, you just draw. It does everything you want it to do. I have a one-off copy of Besiege, which is completely not a mistake. Why would I put a mid-attack into my deck when I'm playing a billion other mid-attacks that they're going to block anyway? I don't know. This should have been like Massive Blow or something, just because like the extra turbo on it, and also sometimes the powerful 5 just kills people.
Yeah, for sure. Besiege is like, it's very contentious. It's just like, it is either the worst attack in your lineup or the best because your opponent's deck is too good to block it, haha. But like... It's probably fine in Byakko because he just slams like 8 damage on it, and your opponent has to check like a 6 or better to block it usually. So
the whole thing, it was that I wanted a 3 for the end of the strings when I couldn't guarantee passing anything higher, which did happen in my testing when I was like, I'm going to be summoning, and then like I have to play a 5th attack. This is the one I'm going to put on top of my deck and draw with Byakko.
Correct, yeah.
Into the foundations, we got all the cheaty ones. This is secretly a 5 and secretly not a 5. You play this on a 2. it really exists to mill 3, put 5 damage on stuff, but the damage neg is relevant, and also the speed did come up in the tournament, which was nice, just spending momentum. And also, it makes your checks easy to pass because you don't even think about it. Just commit it. Doesn't matter. You do 5 damage while it's committed.
Yeah, tenacious. So, it's on the house.
It's on the house. It's free. Of course, we got full massive size because we're a big cat. This also says 5. It's also secretly not on a 5, unless you're playing the Byakko mirror. And game 3 in top 32, I ripped massive size as my first form for getting because I've never played the Byakko mirror and checked a 3 and ended my turn.
Oh god. Oh no.
Of course, we've seen Tiny Cliff, so we got Ultra Regens. Again, secret way to stack and draw off of Byakko. Really good thing on defense is you just go, hey, I don't care. I'm going to put Referee Jury on top of my deck, and then Ultra Regens, I'm going to take the attack. I'm going to gain my 2, draw my card, and then I'm going to neg your next thing. Secretly, also the fact that it's 4 is really important because, again, you can, if you've used Sacrifice of the Cause or any of your 3s, you can build this off Canister Strike for more damage. So there's a lot of ways to get into this card.
Yeah, I know in our game in Swiss, one of your lines was you accounting for, okay, if I'm successfully able to build this in, or do this without like checking a 3 on the canister, then I can like roll +4 on all of my attacks, and that maybe gets there through Hanji's -3. So it's like 1 overprinted as opposed to none.
None, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, to Sacrifice the Cause, this card's mental. I sadly saw it very few times over the weekend, and it's crazy. Again, speaking of Hanji matchups, for whatever reason, this can cancel the Hanji build, so it sucks for them on their turn. I got that done to me at my Nationals when I was playing Hanji. But the fact that it's extra damage cash out as well off of this, you have an absolute boatload of like +4 block zones and +3 block zones. So you get extra damage, and then anytime they try to referee jury you, as you know, that's what happens when you put a million speed on something. Yeah, they just cry.
Yeah.
For Thunderous Roar, this is the main way we're killing people.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful card. Again, you hit 30 in your bin on turn 3 almost every single game, unless you stumble pretty hard. When you commit it, it gets +1 speed for each face down foundation in your opponent's stage, and then if you have 30 in the bin, it gets double that amount. Very often, the least you're committing this for is like 10 speed, and it effectively makes everything unblockable. You build it off everything you can. This is the card you're looking for all game. Leans into the Beast Summoning lines where you get to untap it as well and just make the next one a million speed.
Yeah,
very,
for sure.
Very gross. 2 incredible displays. Part of the reason there's not more is that this is more in here for the response cancel rather than the pick up a block. A, because most of the time you're blocking with attacks, and secondarily, you know, like you don't play speed hate. So they play a 4-speed move, you play, like, you're blocking on a 7, you're committing 3 or 4 foundations a lot of the time. So you don't really even get to use that. But yeah, very much just cancel responses. Sometimes you forget to do it, sometimes you just don't have momentum, so I don't really want more than 2 in the main.
Yeah, it's definitely like response wars and like counter wars almost in this game basically usually only happen against like the combo Deku matchup. And against combo Deku, your niche in that matchup is the fact that all of their foundations have like crazy equity and do stuff. So you just play as many attacks as you can and make them flip them. And also 38 requires like 7 to 8 forms plus momentum to kill you. So like it'll take them a minute and you'll have time to just like chuck all of them at them and like commit their entire board. And like you said, if you ever find a T-Roar, they can flash one of them, but every other one is unblockable.
For sure. The other things are like, this cancels rejuve. It's really gross.
That's very funny.
Cancels a bunch of random things in your man, and it can put their maths off, which is very funny. Especially when they're doing the Saka Foundation to gain a life, the response on Best Buddies. Yeah, whenever they play that, and you're just like, no. And they're like, all right, I just negged myself for nothing, and now I don't get that extra damage, and that stacks throughout the rest of the turn. When you have 38 health, that matters. For most other matchups with Ymir,
right, for most other matchups, every one of their attacks is for more than half your life total, but for Byakko, it takes like maybe 4 or 5 different instances of life gain for that to matter. So.
Learning the standards. I went off this card a lot. This was one of my favorite cards, but there's so many like soups and potatoes and other things floating around. There was a lot of Sasha going around in Oceania, so it's just like, you know, it felt like I was removing a foundation and my opponent didn't give a shit. So like that was basically it. The build, like the other response, however, when they build during the combat phase, really good against Ymir, especially if they're looking for a specific piece. And that comes up as well. Card should probably have another copy or 2 in between the main or the side. It wasn't all-star all weekend because I didn't play against anything with soups in it. So,
just because like Also, people talk about like, oh, it's not that good against Pony because they have seizing the advantage. It's like, well, they have to have it.
Yeah, they have to have drawn it and play it at the right time. Again, the downside of Pony doing it is like, sure, they put a card in their card pool, they don't care, and then they clear it, but it's like you're spending more counters and doing more things. That's low speed. I might get a block a thing. And like it just slows them down usually enough. This deck isn't bad into Pony, which is nice and part of the reason that I played it.
Yeah. Because Pony's like, unless they have sack for the cause, their moves are not doing a lot, and you have 38 health, so they have to play like 14.
Yeah.
And then if you go, I don't know, I'll just block like 1 or 2 of them and stack some, like, I don't know, like the throw that makes their checks harder, or any like high block that is passable. Like,
oh yeah, and that's very much what the Pony matchup ends up being. You're just like, cool, I only ever have to block Battle Aura release because it's the only card that's like effectively more than printed that I care about.
Battle Aura, or maybe the Falling Skies if they are like keeping any amount of things in the card pool, or depending on the version. Right?
Once they throw Falling Skies at us, it's usually at least a 6 high for something, and we have something in our card pool, like a Referee Jury or whatever, so it's probably killing us, but on the off chance
just in case
we're allowed to, then yeah, sure. The reason the deck is very consistent is new training method. A, you've got a bunch of 2s and higher on your foundation, so your builds get a lot better with this in play. And secondarily, your deck's built around finding stuff and putting it into play. And this card just says, hey, I checked that 5 that I needed for damage to kill you. I'm going to go pick it up.
Perfect.
Yeah, card does everything that you kind of want it to do. It's
everything that you can do to regrow like a hand size in a 5-hander is like super duper good.
Pretty
also,
much.
I'm gonna miss this card so much.
So am I. Like, this deck changes a lot without it. I'll still be playing some amount of Byakko, but it's gonna be a very different list. The 2+ high block is also really important.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a 1-off quick response. On the night before the tournament, I realized I had no way to break my own board as I was trying to break a Thunderous Roar I'd used, and I wanted to rebuild it in with Canister.
Yeah.
This was the one that I chose just because like it has a deadlock punish and we do play highs. It makes electric moths not like absolute idiots. Now you're a 5 high for 9 instead of
it's like it might cost you something to block with that showdown in your hand. Hopefully.
And once you've committed your foundations outside of the 5 diffs, like this, like you don't care about them. You might as well like break them. There's no resources.
It's also some non-zero amount of deadlock outside of Byakko just going, I don't know, I'll just stack a bunch of beast summonings and play enough attacks that deadlock doesn't matter.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We got 1-off Titan Combat. Again, this was a flex spot. There used to be a bunch more of these. Again, this card was a low block, which I felt was going to be somewhat important. Block one thing, move on with life.
Yeah.
But again, this card is nice when you just go, cool, I'm going to commit this. You'll commit a foundation, which comes up randomly, which gives you really interesting creation canisters. And then also, when you already have the canister, you just commit this, give it 2 damage, they commit 1, and then you just remove this as the cost and go build your Thunderous Roar, and they cry.
Yeah. You use every part of the buffalo. We make sure we don't waste any resources.
We got a card we literally never want in our hand. It's Shooter in Kirishima. This card exists to be milled. It says your opponent flips foundations faster. It is awkward because you remove it. There were definitely times over the weekend where I had to leave it in my bin so I could activate Byakko's once per turn. But like, when they have less foundations, you're probably winning the game.
Yeah, and with like the other parts of your turbo cards, like you should be fine. You should like removing one isn't usually going to be that big of a deal.
No. Removing one isn't a big of a deal because we've got a Father's Sin.
Let's
this
go.
Card's awful. I love it so much. This card gets you there on turn 3. If you see one of these, you're so far closer to killing your opponent than not. And if you ever see 2, which happened multiple times, you're just like, I think I ended turn 2 once with outthrowing an attack with 18 cards in the bin.
Yeah.
Just because of these bad boys. Again, they represent 5 cards in the bin each time. And again, you're a 5-hander. Randomly, they give you like an extra card. You do mill 2 attacks, and you do want some of your attacks in the bin. So
yeah, theoretical 6-hander. You got your choice of attacks to stack once you get to 30.
The other thing is you remove it with Creation Canister Strike, build a suite of any of the cool 2s. And then on top of that, 4+ mid block allows you to just ditch it to sacrifice for the cause.
Yeah.
So, again,
plus damage for sacrifice for the cause. In the weird world where you're successfully able to block on a 7, it blocks Besiege.
We have 4 Chivalrous. Draws your opponent a card, which sucks, but when your moves are unblockable, you don't care. That's basically it. It sucks a little bit more because there's referee juries and stuff, but the don't touch my board aspect of it is so important. If people are trying to season you or do anything, especially get rid of your 5s, get rid of your Thunderous Roars, this card is like a mandatory 4-off at the moment. I will miss this greatly once it's gone. And yeah, this card's been incredible since it was printed.
Yeah, 100%. It's also just like important to have more instances of I get to draw a card in my character that stacks cards.
You'll notice that there's a lack of fearsome transformations in here as I move to the zeros, and that's because I was a coward. Realistically, in my testing, I did not have momentum enough for it to just be a draw, so it was always a draw discard, and I was specifically trying to go +1s, and when you're playing this many random pieces of crap, you just like have a limited amount of room to add stuff.
Yeah, there's like a weird world where that helps the math to getting to 30 because draw discard puts another one in the bin, but like...
Yeah. And you'll find that pretty much all the other lists are playing Fearsome Transformation, but like this weekend I just made the decision not to. I used to play some amount of them, but yeah, the card that I took it out for is coming up. This is Internship with Best Genius. This is also one of the worst cards in our deck. However, it mills 1, so it's like you check it twice and it flips an opponent's foundation. This card actually blocks Besiege and is very funny.
Yeah.
Which is very enjoyable. It doesn't do anything else. It's 3+ damage if you want to. There is, and you'll see as we're playing a lot more zeros than you'd expect in a 5-hander, especially a 5-hander that is doing other stuff. There's a lot of really important highs to block in the format.
Yeah.
So the +1 high block is incredible, especially Mids of Despair. If you can just block Mids of Despair against Ymir, they probably just don't kill you. They have to have a second one, and then they're playing on progressive after that, and you have 38 health and referee juries and stuff. This is just so good against them.
And like more often than not against that Ymir string specifically, you just need 1 foundation and Byakko up, and then you can try for the block because it's like +2 base, +2 from that, and you just need like a 7.
And if you're already at 30, it's really easy. You just stack a 6 in your bin on top, which these are.
And there's another 6,
And you're just like, cool, put 1 on top, block with this. I'm blocking on 8. I'll commit my character, commit my last foundation, and then dare you to get through the last like 27 health.
Yeah, it's just another very important like piece in the deck regardless. It like fits exactly in its mold. It's another thing you can build off of Titan Cliff. It's
Yeah, and that was definitely the other decision of me going to this, was that I was finding that my Titan Cliffs weren't building enough things, and that this having 7 or 6 options in the deck just smoothed that out a little bit, and allowed me to play 1 more Titan Cliff. Onto the sideboard, which again I had no idea what I was meant to be putting in here. I had a Besiege in the main board that I knew was going to be bad sometimes, and I needed to get rid of assets. Airy is a big one, especially against Ghidorah and other stuff. VME can be pretty gross against you if you don't have the right things. And yeah, so we just
Cape
played
against some of like the heinous
Cape is also pretty gross.
Chaos decks,
So card's good, does what it needs to do. You don't get to do anything special with it though. We've got the third incredible display in here as well. Again, just comes in when you need it more. Ymir matchups, that sort of stuff. Cards are good. We got 2 fast strengths. Sometimes your opponent's attacks have text on them, and I don't like that. So no text on your foundations, no text on your attacks. I'm much happier. That's pretty much it.
Simplified game state.
Exactly. I brought these in a lot. I think I built them once. I'm sad because it would have won me a lot more games.
Theoretically, it's like you can fetch it with all the foundations that like fetch foundations or the attacks that build yada yada, but
a lot of the decks that are playing Runaway are also struggling with studies decks, funnily enough. And also sometimes people stuff your card pool in silly ways, or sometimes people put things that are relevant into their card pool. Again, you can kick a referee jury to make your blocks better after you've used it with this Forcing Surrender. 2+ low block is also relevant sometimes. That's good. We don't have any genuine combos in order to get rid of momentum anymore, but yeah.
Theoretically, you can like kick out City Rampage also.
Theoretically, yeah. I didn't run into any Zillas, which is probably why I made it to top 16, because that matchup is miserable, and that's part of the reason that the next card is in the sideboard, and that is high value target.
Sad to see her go.
Yeah, so sad. Shiv, it also comes in against matchups where you desperately need to block. So often against Ymir, you're like, shit, I need like more foundations than I realistically have. But yeah, very much so. Just against Zilla, keeping your 5 or keeping your Thunderous Roar
so important.
So important.
Yeah, same thing with the Chivalrous. Like it's just so important to defend the damage, right?
Oh, for sure. The Chivalrous doesn't get to cancel the board destruction because it's non-character effect, but this one does. So you do get to save one. And that's pretty much it. Because I didn't play against Zillas, I didn't bring these in, and I look like a fool for not putting 4 Great Bucklers in here.
But you're glad they're there at least,
I'm glad they're there. So that's pretty much the whole deck. There's a lot of changes to make, especially with rotation. Critical Role brings out some cool new stuff. My top 32 opponent was playing a Slim 60 Byakko with he was doing Build Your Own Pony with Thunder Spear Demo and Beast Summoning, and just going, cool, I'll ready this, hell yeah. That was sick, and that's probably where the deck goes next.
Yeah, probably. All right, well, thank you so much, man. Do you have any other shout-outs?
Shout-outs to all the boys back in Christchurch. Shout-outs to everyone in Oceania who helps me test. I think that's mostly it. Shout-outs to the boys at Akikambara and Richard Osley for helping me get out here. Without him, I probably would have chosen not to make the trip. Fortunately, I did, and it's paid off. It's been an awesome time. Worlds was incredible. Had a great time, met a lot of awesome people, played against a lot of awesome people, and overall, very much worth it. Hope to see you at the next one.
All right, congrats on top 16.
Thank you very much.